So while you guys are getting warmed up with some more questions with us, we actually did receive some questions this week in the comment section of any other video. That's a great way for you guys to actually ask us some questions. And this question comes from
Lubos1. He asks, hey guys, I'm moving, or she, whoever it is, asks, hey guys, I'm moving to New Zealand in November 2021 with a working holiday visa. I'm thinking of going to Auckland, and I wanted to know the pros and cons to be moving there on that kind of visa. I also wanted to know which city would you recommend the most for someone going to New Zealand with a visa like that, and how to know if it's the right choice of city. Thank you for your videos. They help me a lot.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So the working holiday visa quickly is a visa that allows people from 42 different countries to come to New Zealand to work and travel for about a year. There are different conditions. Some of them can come for 24 months. Some of them can only come for 6 months. But in general, that is what it is. The visa is also only available to people usually which are under 30 years old. Some of them goes up to 35, but that is it. So that's a visa that usually people use to come and explore New Zealand for an extended period of time. So we're talking usually people coming for 6 months to a year. So when considering some locations for you, Lubos, we I just like that name. We obviously were thinking about something that you will enjoy for an extended period of time. So let's get started with the pros and cons of doing your working holiday visa in Auckland. So first up, some of the pros is that Auckland is a really large city, so you'll be able to mingle with a lot of people. This is the place where you will have some of the best nightlife. The second best will be Queenstown, and after that, there's not going to be much nightlife in New Zealand because that's not what New Zealand is known for. There is going to be really easy shopping in Auckland, easy commuting with good public transport. And there is plenty of jobs in Auckland as well. So that encompasses quite a lot of the pros for living in Auckland. Now, some of the cons for living in Auckland during your working holiday visa are that in Auckland, yes, there is a lot of jobs, but there is also a lot of more people looking for jobs. So the job to people ratio is actually way lower than in some of other cities of New Zealand. So that means that, yes, you will have more jobs to apply for, but for each of the jobs, you will compete with much more people. Let's say you'll compete with 11 other candidates for a waiting job, while maybe in a town like Rotorua, you may just compete with only 3 other people, so you have much greater chance to land a job somewhere else. Also, because there is more people in Auckland, the cost of life in Auckland is way higher. Rent is way higher. The cost of everything, like going out and food and everything, tend to be way higher than anywhere else. There is good public transport in Auckland, but sadly, that also comes with a lot of traffic. So you will actually, encounter traffic jams in Auckland quite regularly. And also it's a sprawling, really megalopolis big city. So for this reason, Auckland is so big, you may just have a hard time getting out of the city and getting that wilderness New Zealand experience. So for this reason, we don't think Auckland is the best place to actually spend your working holiday visa. It's a great place when you arrive in New Zealand to actually spend about 1 week and get everything settled, opening your bank account, doing all the paperwork that you need to do, like, setting up a phone number and all those kind of things, applying for your IRD number, all those kind of things. And we do have other videos on the channel for that, and plenty of tips, all in writing without me speaking super fast, on nzpocketguide.com. It's written right here, and it's the largest travel guide to New Zealand, and there's a whole section on working holiday visas. So you click on work in New Zealand, then you have all the working holiday stuff there. So it's a great place to get all that started, but then we actually advise you to get out of the city and get somewhere else. There's many other cities that are really awesome to find a job and also experience the whole of New Zealand. Laura will go over those in a minute. But the best way to actually spend your working holiday visa in New Zealand is to actually plan your trip within 2 working stations. So let's say you're going to spend, about 3 months working in Rotorua, saving some money and then traveling a little bit around, and then 3 months working somewhere on the South Island and saving some money and traveling around. That's the best way to plan a working holiday visa, rather than being sedentary in Auckland, in which you're not going to experience New Zealand wilderness wilderness whatsoever. All right, so what are some of the best cities where you can actually do some working holiday visa and experience the awesome New Zealand wilderness?
One of the first cities that springs to mind is Christchurch, which is the largest city on the South Island. And unlike Auckland, Christchurch, it's a little bit easier to get out and do some really cool road trips to see some of that New Zealand scenery that you've probably seen loads of pictures of the beautiful snowy Southern Alps, or maybe even taking, your weekend off and going down to Queenstown, for instance. Christchurch generally tends to be a good place to basically explore a little bit more of New Zealand, because of course it's a bit of a shame to come all the way to New Zealand just to stay in one city. New Zealand is definitely worth exploring. Also, another good place to go on the South Island is Dunedin. That's a really cool city. It's mostly, people tend to know it more as quite a student type city. There's very popular university there. But with that means that there's actually some affordable housing and, sort of affordable groceries, that sort of thing. And also, it's a good place to sort of explore some of the South Island as well. Other places, maybe on the North Island, you could go to Rotorua. Although most people would see this as a large town, it is actually classed as a city. But generally, the cost of living is a bit lower than if you were to live in Auckland, for instance. And you're in a good central location on the North Island to do lots of exploring of the North Island. Just quickly going over some other cities that are well worth looking into. But on your question as well, you did ask, how do you know what's the right choice of city when you come to do a working holiday visa in New Zealand? And we strongly recommend actually to do some traveling once you arrive in New Zealand before choosing a city, because although you can do a ton of research online about the different types of the different cities around New Zealand, you can get a completely different feel, and it's, your expectations could be, quite wrong once you get to the city you arrive in, and it's like, oh, this is not what I expected, or it could, surpass all expectations and be the best thing ever. You don't really know until you get to the city. So we strongly recommend saving a bit of money before you come to New Zealand so you can afford to travel. For about a month is a good, at least a month to start with, exploring the country and seeing where would be a really nice town or city to be in. That's kind of our pro tip for you there. And that's what we would recommend the most of all. Do a bit of exploring before you decide on a city.
Yeah, so that's really important to point that out. It's like the more you actually get to explore around New Zealand, the more you're going to find some places where you're going to say, oh, I wish I would spend more time there. So don't just, strand yourself in Auckland and work and save pennies on the dollars because you spend so much trying to afford the expensive cost of living. Auckland is one of the most expensive city to live in the world, and then not being able to save anything, and then when you get to travel around New Zealand, you wish you were somewhere else. Trust the experts. We've both been on a working holiday visa in New Zealand, and we both learned from those experiences. Yeah. So I hope that was super useful for you, Ludos, this video, and I hope that you got to get some useful information out of it. If not Ludos, and you did find this video useful as well, you're very welcome. If you want to reward us for all our hard work, you can hit the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel. We're here for you and to advise you on all matters of traveling in New Zealand. You can also check out nzpocketguide.com, which is the largest travel guide to New Zealand. And meantime, thanks for watching. Let's go back to live chat.